I was banned from Thanksgiving by my daughter-in-law, and they flaunted their dinner while I ate alone at home with a microwaved plate and a knot in my chest. What followed changed everything, not just for me, but for them too. It started 2 weeks before the holiday. I had texted Emily, my daughter-in-law, asking what I should bring for dinner. She took almost a full day to respond, and when she finally did, her reply came through with a casual cruelty I hadn't expected. Actually, we're doing something small this year. Just the kids and a couple friends. Hope you understand. I stared at the screen for a long time, unsure of what stung more, the rejection or the complete indifference of how it was delivered. My son Matthew never followed up. No explanation, no call, not even a half-hearted text. I thought maybe I had misunderstood. Maybe there was a miscommunication. I waited a couple days and then called him. Hold on a moment before we move forward. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. And if you're loving these stories, don't forget to hit subscribe. Tomorrow's episode is going to be absolutely mind-blowing, he answered on the second ring. Hey, Mom, everything okay? I took a breath. Emily said you're keeping it small this year? He paused. That pause said everything. Yeah, things have been hectic. It's nothing personal. Nothing personal? I repeated. I've spent every Thanksgiving with you since you left for college. He stayed silent and then mumbled, I'm sure we'll see you soon. Let's not make a big deal, okay? I didn't say anything. I just hung up. That Thursday, I heated up a frozen turkey dinner and set it on a tray. I tried to ignore the silence in the house. I tried not to check social media, but of course, I did. Emily had posted photos, a long dining table filled with candles, fine china, expensive wine. Her caption said, Grateful for the ones who truly matter. I spotted Matthew at the head of the table, laughing. My granddaughter Lily sat beside him, holding a slice of pumpkin pie. They all looked happy, whole. I wasn't even mentioned. Sat there in my worn recliner, a fork in one hand, my other hand trembling slightly as I scrolled through the pictures. I felt hollow. The kind of hollow you can't really describe, because it's not sadness or even anger. It's something colder. A slow, dawning realization. I wasn't family to them anymore. I was just extra. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. I couldn't sleep. I wandered through the house barefoot, staring at the family photos still on the walls. Pictures of Matthew in high school, the day he graduated college, their wedding, the baby shower I hosted in my own living room, the crib I bought for Lily, the down payment I had quietly contributed to for their first home. My name wasn't on the deed, but every wall in that house existed because I had helped build it. I walked into my office and pulled out a thick file folder. Inside were all the records, copies of wire transfers, utility bills still tied to my account, insurance, premiums I was still paying. I had been covering Matthew's car insurance for years. The health plan Emily used was still attached to the one I set up back when I worked at the school district. The house? The mortgage was in their name, but the cushion that allowed them to qualify in the first place was a $42,000 gift I made from my retirement fund. They never repaid a cent, never offered to. And the worst part, I never asked them to. Because I thought that's what family did. I stared at the documents for a long time, and then I started making calls. First, I called the insurance company. I need to remove 2 people from my policy. Next, the bank. Yes, I'd like to end the automatic mortgage support. Then, the credit card company. No, I'm not authorizing any more users on this account. Please close all secondary cards. It took hours. By mid-afternoon, I was emotionally drained, but more clear-headed than I had felt in years. I made myself a cup of coffee, sat on the porch, and listened to the breeze. I wasn't sure what this new silence was yet, but at least it wasn't full of begging, guilt, or obligation. 3 days later, Emily called me. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was short but sharp. Hi, Linda. I noticed our health cards were declined at Lily's checkup. We must have been removed from the plan? Not sure what's going on. Please call me back. I didn't. The next message came the following morning, this time from Matthew. Mom, I'm trying to understand what happened. The mortgage account is showing overdue. Were there issues with the payment schedule? Can we talk? I sat at the kitchen table, holding the phone in my hand. I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt done, but I wasn't finished. I opened my laptop and typed up a letter addressed to the Community Elder Care Foundation. I had volunteered with them for years. They provided housing and legal help to grandmothers who had been cut off or exploited by their own families. I knew their board president well. I'd like to make a donation, I wrote. Unrestricted funds. Use it where it's needed most. In memory of every mother who gave everything and was left behind. I attached the documents, closed the laptop. The next morning, I drove down to the notary's office and transferred $50,000 in savings to the foundation. I also updated my will. Matthew and Emily were removed as primary beneficiaries. I left something for Lily, should she want a relationship in the future. But everything else would go to the people who stood beside me when my own son chose to pretend I didn't exist. Later that night, as I sat in my recliner again, no photos lit up my phone. No messages from Emily, no apology from Matthew. Just silence. And for the first time in a very long time, I didn't feel invisible. I felt free. The silence didn't last long. The very next day, Emily showed up at my front door. I had just sat down with a plate of toast and eggs when the knock came. I didn't move right away. I looked through the peephole first. She stood there, arms folded, lips tight, wearing a coat, too thin for the weather and boots that clicked loudly against the porch wood as she shifted her weight back and forth. I opened the door halfway. She didn't even say hello. Why did you cut the insurance? Do you know how embarrassing it was for us at the clinic? I stood there for a moment. I thought you didn't want me involved anymore. Her eyes narrowed. That's not what this is about. No, I asked. You uninvited me from Thanksgiving. You blocked me from seeing Lily. You stopped answering my texts. Matthew said it was better this way. I didn't block you, she said sharply. I was trying to keep things peaceful. Peaceful for who? That shut her up. She glanced past me like she expected Matthew to be inside. Maybe still hoping I'd say I misunderstood, that all of this was a big confusion and that I'd come crawling back with apologies and checkbooks. But I didn't. I stepped aside and said, if you'd like to talk like an adult, come in. If you're just here to lecture me, I think we're done. She hesitated, then walked in. Her boots left faint wet spots on the floor. I didn't offer her coffee. She sat stiffly on the edge of the couch. I just want to understand, she said. Why now? Why cut everything off at once? You didn't even talk to us. I sat across from her. Because talking to you hasn't changed anything for the last 3 years. You make the decisions. Matthew stays silent. And I pretend it's not hurting me. That ends now. She let out a short laugh. So this is revenge? No, I said. This is correction. Do you know what you've done to us financially? Matthew's entire business is hanging on that mortgage. His line of credit? I know exactly what I did, I interrupted. And I also know exactly what I've done for both of you. For over a decade, I let you build your lives on a foundation that I paid for, without ever making you feel guilty for it. But when I was no longer convenient, you erased me. Emily crossed her arms again. We didn't erase you. You had Thanksgiving without me. You posted pictures of a perfect family dinner while I ate alone. No one even said sorry. There was a long pause. She didn't apologize. She just stared at me, then stood up. You know what? Fine. If this is how you want to do things, go ahead. I'll tell Matthew, but don't expect him to come around. You've made your choice. She walked out without saying goodbye. I stood by the window, watched her get into the car, slam the door, and drive off. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel sad. I just felt tired. That evening, Matthew called. I didn't answer the first 2 times. The third time, I picked up. His voice came through tight, controlled. You had no right to do this without talking to us. I had every right. It was my money, Matthew. You blindsided us. You couldn't even have a conversation first? I paused. I tried. For years I tried. But you let Emily take over everything. And you let her decide I was disposable. She didn't decide anything. No? I asked. Then where were you when I was told not to come to Thanksgiving? Where were you when she returned the Christmas gifts I sent for Lily last year without even opening them? Silence. A deep one, I continued. You stood by and let it happen. So yes, I'm taking back what's mine. I'm not obligated to bankroll people who don't want me in their lives. He didn't respond. I could hear him breathing, frustrated, but not yelling. Then he said, You've put us in a terrible position. Lily's school tuition, I know. I cut in. I've already spoken to the Community Foundation. They'll be offering a scholarship in my name next semester. It won't go to Lily. It will go to a grandmother raising her grandchild. One who hasn't been pushed aside. He didn't say anything for a while. Then, his voice dropped. You're really doing this? I already did. He hung up without another word. The days that followed were quiet. No more phone calls. No more messages. I kept my routines. Grocery shopping on Tuesdays, church on Sunday morning. I started volunteering more hours at the Elder Care Foundation office downtown. The director, Clarice, asked me to speak at one of their panels. I declined the spotlight, but I agreed to help behind the scenes. One afternoon, while sorting donation forms and thank you letters, Clarice said, You know, Linda, I've worked with a lot of women over the years who come in here empty. Not financially, emotionally. Empty because they spent their lives giving and never had anyone notice. I didn't say anything. I just nodded. You're not one of them, she said. You still have your voice, you're using it. That stuck with me. The following Saturday, I got a letter in the mail, no return address. I opened it slowly. It was from Lily. Dear Grandma, Mom and Dad have been fighting a lot. I heard them say your name. I asked about you and Mom said you were upset about something, but I don't know what. I miss you. I liked when you came to pick me up from dance class and bought me jelly beans after. I hope I can see you again. Love, Lily. I sat there for a long time, holding that letter. My hands shook a little. The letter wasn't long, but it cut deep. She didn't know what had happened. She only knew I was gone. I didn't respond right away. I needed to be sure I wasn't acting on emotion. That night, I called Clarice. I told her about the letter. She said something I won't forget. Sometimes the next generation sees what the last refused to. I wrote Lily back 2 days later. I kept it short, gentle. I didn't speak badly of her parents. I told her I missed her too. I told her I was still here. I included a photo of us at the zoo from a trip we took 2 years ago. She had been holding a bag of cotton candy almost bigger than her head. She'd smiled like it was the best day of her life. I slipped it into the envelope, sealed it, and mailed it. No one else had to know. About a week after I sent the letter to Lily, I received a phone call from an unknown number. I usually let those go to voicemail, but something told me to pick up. Grandma? It was Lily. Her voice was quiet, like she wasn't supposed to be calling. I held the phone tighter. Yes, sweetheart. It's me. I got your letter, she whispered. And the picture. I keep it in my backpack. I closed my eyes for a moment. I hadn't realized how badly I needed to hear her voice. I'm so glad you called, I said. How are you? She hesitated. Things have been weird at home. Mommy and Daddy keep having meetings at school. I asked if I could see you and Mommy said she'd think about it. I didn't want to ask too many questions. I didn't want to put her in the middle of anything. I miss you, she said again. I want to come over. Can I? I was about to answer when I heard a door slam in the background and Emily's voice calling out, Lily? What are you doing? Lily panicked. I have to go. Bye, Grandma. The line went dead. I stood in the middle of my kitchen with the phone still pressed to my ear. I didn't move for several minutes. I wasn't angry. I was just tired of being treated like I was dangerous for loving my own granddaughter. The next day, I received a formal letter in the mail. a cease and desist notice. It was from a law firm representing Emily and Matthew. They were requesting that I cease all attempts to contact their minor child, Lily, claiming that any communication without parental consent could be viewed as harassment. I had to read it twice. I called my attorney, Dennis, the same one who had helped me update my will. He reviewed the letter and asked for all the correspondence I had sent Lily. After reading through everything, he called me back. "They're trying to scare you," Dennis said. "There's nothing illegal about sending a letter to your granddaughter. Unless a court has barred you from contact, which it hasn't. But I'd advise you to stop writing for now." So that was it. My own son and his wife had lawyered up to block a grandmother from sending a photo and a note. A few days later, I was called into the Elder Care Foundation office. Clarice met me at the door. She looked concerned. "Linda, I wanted you to hear this from me before it spreads," she said. "We received a call yesterday from Emily." I sat down. "She said you're unstable, that you've been financially manipulating them for years. She tried to suggest we cut off your volunteer work, said you were trying to rewrite the narrative to make yourself look like the victim." I blinked. "And what did you say?" Clarice folded her hands on the desk. "I said that we don't make decisions based on family disputes. I also told her that every record we have of your involvement here speaks to your integrity, your generosity, and your reliability." I swallowed hard. "She was trying to discredit you," Clarice added. "But it didn't work." I nodded. "Thank you for telling me." She leaned forward. "Linda, what's going on? Why are they doing this now?" I told her everything, from Thanksgiving to the letters, to the donation, to the lawyer's letter. I didn't dramatize it. I just laid it out. Clarice didn't interrupt. When I finished, she sat back and said, "I've seen this before. You stopped being useful to them, so now they need you to be the problem." I left the office that day feeling oddly calm. They had tried to cut me out of their lives, and now that I was standing on my own, they were panicking. Not because they missed me, but because I no longer served their needs. That weekend, I got a message from an old friend, Janet, who had moved to Florida but still followed me on social media. She said, "I saw Emily's post. Did you really steal their family money and donate it without their consent?" I didn't even know what post she meant. I opened my Facebook and found it immediately. Emily had written a long public update, the kind that wasn't written in anger, but crafted carefully to sound measured and concerned. It's hard to talk about family matters online, but we're at a point where we need to protect our daughter. We've experienced a betrayal from someone close to us, someone who took advantage of our trust, redirected family resources, and is now trying to manipulate public sympathy. Please respect our privacy as we work through this. She never mentioned my name. She didn't need to. The comments were full of sympathy. Strangers writing things like, "You're so strong, Mama. Protect that little girl." Others said, "Family can be so toxic. You're doing the right thing." I didn't reply. I didn't make a post of my own. I didn't call anyone to defend me. Instead, I made another appointment with Dennis. I wanted to make everything clear. The house, the savings, the pension. Everything would go to the foundation, to women like me who had been used up and discarded. And I told him, if anything ever happens to me, I don't want them to have access to a single penny. Not unless Lily comes back into my life as an adult, by choice. He nodded. "I'll make sure it's all locked in." A few days later, I got a letter in the mail, handwritten, no return address. I opened it slowly. It was from Lily. "Grandma, I'm sorry. I got in trouble for calling you, but I miss you. I don't believe what they said. I love you. I told my teacher about you and she said I should draw you a picture. I'm sending it too. Don't throw it away." Inside the envelope was a drawing. Me and Lily sitting on a park bench, holding hands. There were flowers and a blue sky. I put it on the fridge, right next to the grocery list. I kept Lily's drawing on the fridge. Every morning when I made coffee, it was the first thing I looked at. I didn't touch it, didn't straighten it, didn't laminate it. It stayed just the way she sent it. Slightly crooked, crayon lines a little smudged, the top corner torn. It was real. And it reminded me that whatever else was going on, Lily still remembered me, still cared. For the next 2 weeks, things were quiet again. No more letters, no new messages. I still went to the Elder Care Foundation 3 times a week to volunteer. Clarice had started introducing me to other women in similar situations. Some were older than me, some younger, all with different versions of the same story. One had been cut off when her daughter got married, and the new son-in-law didn't like interference. Another had been slowly pushed out after years of unpaid childcare. We weren't bitter. We were just tired. One afternoon, I got a knock at the door. Not a phone call, not a voicemail. A knock. It was Matthew. He looked worn down. He hadn't shaved, and his eyes were puffy. His shirt was untucked, and he kept shifting on his feet. "I'm not here to fight," he said right away. I stood in the doorway for a few seconds before stepping aside. 5 minutes. He nodded and walked in. He didn't sit, just stood near the edge of the living room, looking around like it had been years since he'd last been there. It hadn't. It just felt like it. "I don't know what to say," he began. "Things have gotten out of control." I didn't respond. "Emily, she's upset. She feels like you attacked us." "I removed my support," I said. "I didn't touch anything that wasn't mine, and I didn't attack anyone." He rubbed his forehead. "We're behind on everything, the business, Lily's tuition. The insurance lapse made us pay out of pocket for some procedures." "That I paid for the past 9 years?" I interrupted. He lowered his head. I know you did. I didn't think you'd cut everything." "You didn't think I'd stop letting you use me?" He didn't deny it. There was a long silence. Then he looked at me. Really looked at me. "I think I let Emily take over too much," he said quietly. I stopped pushing back. "That's not news to me." He sat down finally, sinking into the couch like his body couldn't hold the weight anymore. "I came to ask you to reconsider. Just Lily's tuition." "That's it." I shook my head. "I already donated the education fund to the foundation. They're using it to provide full scholarships for 3 girls being raised by their grandparents." His mouth tightened. "That money was meant for Lily." "No, it was mine. I saved it. I managed it. You and Emily just assumed it would be there forever." He stood up again, frustrated. "We're drowning." I nodded. "And when I was drowning, alone, none of you reached out. Not even a call on Thanksgiving. Not even a seat at the table." He didn't try to deny that either. He walked toward the door but stopped just before leaving. "She still talks about you," he said. "Every week. Emily doesn't like it. But Lily keeps asking." I nodded, but didn't say anything. When he was gone, I sat down and stared at the wall, not out of shock. I was just tired of the repetition, of only being acknowledged when I was needed. That night, I received an email from the foundation. Clarice had forwarded me a thank you message from one of the scholarship recipients' grandmothers. It was short, just a photo of a teenage girl, in a school uniform, holding a backpack and grinning wide, and a line that read, "You made this possible." I printed the email and stuck it on the fridge next to Lily's drawing. The next day, the storm began. Emily had posted again. This time, on a local parenting group on Facebook that we were both members of. It wasn't just vague hints this time. It was specific. My mother-in-law removed her financial support for our daughter's education and medical needs after a disagreement over holiday plans. Now she's redirecting that money elsewhere and pretending to be the victim. We're facing real consequences. If anyone knows resources for dealing with elder financial manipulation or emotional blackmail, please message me. The comments were a mix of sympathy and judgment. Some believed her, some didn't. A few people tagged me. Clarice saw it too. She called me in for a quick meeting the next morning. "We're not worried," she said, "but you need to know she's escalating. Publicly now." I thanked her for letting me know. I didn't respond to the post. That weekend, I received a certified letter in the mail, Emily and Matthew were petitioning the court for an emergency protective order. They were claiming emotional distress and harassment. The petition was filled with exaggerated claims, including that I had stalked Lily by contacting her against parental instruction and that I had interfered in the family's finances with malicious intent. He took the letter to Dennis. He flipped through the pages, his brow furrowing. "This won't go far," he said. "There's no restraining order yet. It's just a petition. But they're trying to build a case, trying to frame you as a threat." "Why?" He looked at me. "Because they're losing control. And people like Emily don't accept losing control quietly." He prepared a formal response and we filed it immediately. We included documentation of every payment I'd made over the years, every medical bill I covered, the insurance history, the tuition payments, the house down payment, all of it. He also attached Lily's drawing and the thank you note from the foundation as character references. Then we waited. Meanwhile, I kept doing what I always did. I went grocery shopping. I volunteered. I mailed small care packages to other grandmothers in the support group who were going through similar cases. I stayed busy. One afternoon, I got a call from the school. The administrator introduced herself politely, then said, "Ms. Linda, I hope you don't mind me reaching out. Lily listed you as her emergency contact on an older form. We tried calling her parents, but couldn't reach them. Lily fell during recess. She's okay, just a scraped knee, but she asked for you." My heart stopped. "Can I come get her?" I asked immediately. There was a pause. "I think it's best if we wait for a parent, but she really wanted to speak with you." They put Lily on the phone. Her voice was small. "I just wanted to hear your voice," she said. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm not going anywhere." Before she handed the phone back, she said, "I wish I lived with you." I didn't reply. I couldn't. A few minutes later, Emily called me screaming, "How dare you show up at her school? How dare you speak to her?" I calmly explained that the school had called me. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't violate anything. "She's a child," I said, "and she wanted comfort. I gave her that." 1 minute on the phone. "You stay away from my daughter," Emily said, "or I swear we'll make this legal." I didn't reply. I just hung up. The Monday after Emily's call, I met with Dennis again. The court had finally scheduled a hearing regarding the petition for a protective order. Dennis said it would be a straightforward process, but he wanted me to be prepared. He warned me not to show anger, not to engage emotionally, and not to make any comments that could be interpreted as resentment. He went over the paperwork Emily and Matthew had submitted. They included the message Lily had sent me, the photo I mailed her, and even a printout of the drawing she'd made. They labeled it manipulative correspondence. Dennis made sure we documented everything that showed Lily reached out to me first. He organized my financial records again, pages and pages of bank transfers, insurance payments, tuition invoices, and mortgage coverage. I didn't feel anxious. I felt disappointed that it had come to this, that my own son would sit in a courtroom across from me and try to paint me as a threat to his family's peace. On the morning of the hearing, I dressed simply. Dark pants, a plain blouse, no jewelry. I didn't want to look like I was trying to prove anything. I arrived 15 minutes early and sat in the hallway outside the courtroom. Matthew and Emily arrived together. He looked uncomfortable. She didn't. She walked in with confidence and didn't once look my way. When we were called in, Dennis spoke first. He presented the judge with our documentation, calmly explaining the timeline, the financial support, the withdrawal of that support, and the reaction that followed. He played a voicemail from Lily's school where they explained that I had been contacted as an emergency contact and had not shown up at the school. He emphasized that I had not violated any legal boundary. Emily's lawyer then stood up and spoke for over 10 minutes. He described me as overbearing, emotionally manipulative, and inappropriately involved in the life of a minor without consent. Emily testified that I had sent unwanted materials to their home, that I had encouraged emotional dependence in Lily, and that my behavior had caused disruption and stress in their household. The judge looked through the materials quietly, then asked me a single question. "Why do you believe your son and daughter-in-law are doing this?" I answered honestly, "Because I stopped paying their bills." There was a long pause in the courtroom after that. The judge didn't reply, just nodded and continued reading through the documents. After a short recess, he returned with a decision. The petition was denied. There was no evidence of harassment or emotional instability, no pattern of behavior that suggested I was a threat. He closed by saying, "This appears to be a family disagreement that escalated due to unresolved financial tensions. This court does not see grounds for a protective order at this time." Emily looked stunned. Matthew looked down at his hands. They didn't speak to me as they left. Outside the courthouse, Dennis and I stood on the sidewalk. "This doesn't mean they won't try something else," he said. "But now there's a formal record. They can't twist things as easily." I nodded. Let them try. That afternoon, Clarice invited me to speak at a closed support group meeting for grandmothers in similar situations. I hesitated at first, but eventually agreed. It wasn't public, just 15 or 16 women around a table in a quiet room at the foundation building. Some of them had been sued by their own children. Some had been kicked out of their homes. Some had been erased from their grandchildren's lives completely. I didn't talk long, just told them what happened, what I paid for, how it was taken for granted, how I was removed the moment I was no longer financially convenient. A few women nodded. One cried. Another said, "They don't see us as people, just a resource." That comment stuck with me. I had felt like that for years without putting it into words. The next morning, I received another letter, this time not from Emily or Matthew. It was from Lily's school, a short handwritten note from her teacher. "I don't usually get involved in family matters, but I wanted to let you know that Lily has mentioned you nearly every day since winter break. She drew another picture of you in class. We're keeping it in her folder. She told me, 'My grandma is my real safe place.' I kept that note in the drawer by my bed." Later that week, I went to the bank to close the final account I had ever shared with Matthew, a savings account I had opened when he was in college, originally meant as a backup fund for emergencies. It still had a few $1,000s. I requested a certified check and had it sent directly to the Elder Care Foundation. I closed the account permanently. The banker handed me a receipt and said, "Would you like a printout of the final balance before the transfer?" I shook my head. "No need. It's not part of my life anymore." I went home that evening and made a small dinner. Nothing special. Soup and toast. I sat at the table alone, and for once it didn't feel like a punishment. That weekend, I ran into a former neighbor of Matthew and Emily at the grocery store. Her name was Brenda, and she had always been friendly. She gave me a look. "I've been meaning to ask, are you okay? Emily's been saying some things in the neighborhood chat." I raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" Brenda looked uncomfortable. "Just that you've been acting irrational, that you're upset because you were cut off from their family finances, that you're lashing out because you weren't included in Thanksgiving." I nodded. "I see." "I don't believe her," Brenda said quickly. "I told her you were the one who helped them get that house. Everyone knows you helped them stay afloat for years. Don't let her twist it." I thanked her, not because I needed validation, but because it reminded me that not everyone believed the story they were trying to sell. The following Thursday, I received a final call from Matthew. No voicemail, just a missed call. I didn't return it. But an hour later, I got a text. "I don't know how we ended up here. Lily still asks about you. I don't know what to tell her." I stared at the message for a while. Then I typed back, "You tell her the truth, that her grandma was there until you pushed her out." No reply. "Just for a visit, if that's okay with you." "It's okay," I said, "but I don't want Emily showing up again yelling at me. If she wants to talk, she can do it through you." "I understand." He left with Lily about 10 minutes. Later, she gave me another long hug at the door. Can I draw something while I'm at school tomorrow and bring it to you? Of course. That night, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the empty bowl of soup she hadn't touched. Then I went to the fridge and took down the first drawing she'd ever sent me. I added a magnet next to it, leaving space for the next one. The visit happened the following week, just as Matthew had promised. No drama. Just a few quiet hours where Lily sat at the kitchen table and drew in her sketchbook while I made cookies. We didn't talk about Emily. We didn't talk about court or finances. We just existed in the same room again, like we used to. Before she left, she handed me a folded piece of paper. On it, she had written, "I know you didn't leave me. I know it was them. But I still love them too. I just wanted you to know that." I kept that note in my wallet. Later that night, I received an email from Clarice. The retreat had been confirmed. Cabins were booked, meals were arranged, transportation set. She thanked me again for making it possible. "You gave these women something they never expected, a second chance to breathe." I looked around my home, quiet again, but no longer heavy. No longer filled with expectation or waiting. The fridge had 2 drawings now. My phone wasn't buzzing with demands. My money was doing good where it was needed. And for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of what came next. I was still a mother. I was still a grandmother. I just wasn't their safety net anymore. And that, I finally understood, was the real freedom. The day after I sent that message to Matthew, I turned off my phone for 24 hours. Not because I was angry or trying to make a point. I was just tired. Tired of checking for responses. Tired of waiting for apologies that were never going to come. And tired of reading lies about myself through other people's screens. I spent that Friday morning organizing boxes in my garage. There were still a few bins marked for Lily that I had forgotten were there. Old toys, books, art supplies I had picked up on sale, clothes I bought when I used to take her shopping before school started. I sat on a stool in the middle of the cluttered space and stared at one box in particular. It had a pink ribbon tied around it. Inside were sketchbooks and stickers she used to collect. I picked up one and flipped through it. She had once drawn a picture of our house, a simple one, yellow with a green roof. Next to it, she had written in shaky but clear handwriting, "Grandma's house is my favorite place." That afternoon, I called the foundation and asked Clarice if she could arrange something special with the funds I had donated. I told her I wanted to sponsor a weekend retreat for the grandmothers in the support group. A simple one. No speeches. Just quiet time, good food, and a break from the tension they lived with every day. Clarice loved the idea. "You know," she said, "for someone who's been through what you've been through, you're still thinking about everyone else." I answered honestly. "That's all I've done for 40 years. I'm just choosing the right people now." The retreat was scheduled for 2 weeks later. In the meantime, I kept my head down. No new posts from Emily, no new calls from Matthew. For a moment, things actually felt still, but the silence didn't last. On a Tuesday evening, around 6, there was another knock on my door. I assumed it was a neighbor. Instead, it was Lily, standing there with her backpack, alone. I froze. My hands were damp with dish soap. I had just finished washing a pot. I dried them fast and opened the door fully. "Lily?" Her eyes were red. She looked exhausted. "I walked," she said. "I didn't know where else to go." I pulled her inside immediately. "Are you okay? Does your mom know where you are?" She sat on the couch, holding her backpack like a shield. "They were fighting again. I asked about you and Mommy told me to stop bringing you up. She said you were gone. For good. But I remembered how to get here." I knelt in front of her. "Sweetheart, you can't just leave like that. They'll be worried sick." She shook her head. "They don't even know I left." I stood up, trying to stay calm. I didn't want to call Emily. I didn't want to deal with another shouting match. But I had to do the right thing. I called the school first and told them Lily was safe with me, just in case Emily called them in a panic. Then I called Matthew. He answered on the first ring. "Lily's with me," I said. "She walked here, alone. You need to come get her." Silence. Then his voice cracked. "Is she okay?" She's safe, but this can't happen again. He said he'd be there in 15 minutes. Lily stayed quiet while we waited. I made her some soup. She barely touched it. When Matthew arrived, he didn't come in right away. He stood on the porch, hesitant. I opened the door and let him in without saying a word. He looked at Lily and his face fell. "Sweetie, you can't run off like that." She didn't say anything, just stood up and hugged me tightly. Matthew watched it happen. He looked tired, worn down in a way I hadn't seen since he was a teenager struggling through finals. "She misses you," he said quietly. I nodded. "I miss her too." After a few minutes, he said, "Can we talk? Just us?" Lily went to the bathroom, and I stood in the kitchen with him. "I didn't know how bad it had gotten," he said. "Emily, she's trying to hold everything together, but she's doing it in a way that pushes everyone out, including me. I let it go too far." I didn't reply. "I'm not asking for money," he added. "I'm not here for that." "Good," I said, "because there isn't any left for you." He nodded slowly. "I just want to figure out how to fix this. Not for us, for Lily. I don't want her to grow up thinking you disappeared on her." "You let her believe that already," I said. "You knew she was hurting, and you stood by." He didn't argue. He just nodded again. "I want to bring her by next week," he said.